The rain had not stopped for 3 days. In a small, forgotten village at the edge of the city, an old man named Samuel sat inside a leaking wooden shack with his little son, David. Samuel was 78 years old. His back was bent from years of hard labor, and his hands were rough from carrying bricks, digging roads, and doing any work he could find. But now, age had caught up with him. He could barely walk long distances, and most employers turned him away the moment they saw his gray hair. David was only 7. Despite their poverty, the boy always tried to smile. That morning, he looked at his father with hungry eyes and asked softly, "Papa, do we have any food left?" Samuel forced a smile, even though his stomach had been empty since the previous day. He searched through their small kitchen and found only a single piece of dry bread. He broke it into 2 pieces, gave the larger piece to David, and kept the smaller one for himself. David noticed. "Papa, you take this one. I'm not very hungry." Samuel shook his head. A father's strength comes from seeing his child eat. After the rain slowed, Samuel wrapped an old coat around his shoulders and took David's hand. They walked through muddy streets, hoping to find work. At a construction site, Samuel asked the supervisor for a job. The man looked at him and laughed. "You're too old for this work." At a market, he offered to carry goods for customers, but younger men were chosen instead. Hour after hour, they walked with nothing. As evening approached, David's small feet began to hurt. Samuel lifted him onto his back, even though every step caused pain in his aging body. While walking, David whispered, "Papa, are we going to be okay?" Samuel paused for a moment. He looked at the dark sky, then at the boy resting on his shoulders. "As long as we are together, we are not defeated." Those words were brave, but deep inside, Samuel was terrified. When they reached the town square, they saw a crowd gathered around a wealthy businessman whose car had broken down in the flood. People watched, but no one helped. Samuel stepped forward. Using the skills he had learned years earlier as a mechanic, he carefully examined the engine. With trembling hands, he fixed the problem. The car started. The businessman was surprised. "You did this?" Samuel nodded. The man looked at the old worker and the tired child beside him. For the first time that day, someone truly saw their struggle. He invited them into a nearby restaurant. David stared at the warm food on the table as if it were a dream. Samuel watched his son eat, and tears filled his eyes. The businessman then offered Samuel a position maintaining equipment at his company. It was not heavy labor, and it was work Samuel could still do. That night, Samuel and David returned home with food, dry clothes, and something they had not felt in a very long time. Hope. As David fell asleep, he held his father's hand tightly. Samuel looked at the sleeping boy and whispered, "I almost gave up today." Then he smiled through his tears. "But your little hand reminded me that some people are worth fighting for until the very last breath." The storm outside finally began to fade. And in that tiny leaking shack, an old man and his little son discovered that even the weakest light can survive the darkest night. Love stories like this? Subscribe to World Decode and never miss the next adventure.